Namaskar. We welcome you all to the Center for Soft Power's global webinar series Soft Talk number 6, India-Russia Connection, Chai, Cinema and Culture. The Center for Soft Power is India's first center that is dedicated to the study of Indian soft power. It aims to keep the various elements of Indian soft power while also carrying out research and engaging with practitioners and academics. June 12th was Russia's Day yesterday, and our warm wishes to all the people of Russia. India and Russia have had a strong cultural ties for a very long time, almost since prehistory. Scholars, merchants, musicians, and painters have traveled to India building cultural ties. Indian merchants from Gujarat had settled in Astrakhan. And for 70 years now, our ties have been growing and have been nurtured by the people and governments too. We welcome and thank Dr. Usha RK and Zahorulko Andriy for so spontaneously accepting to be a part of today's webinar, sharing their thoughts on India-Russia connection, Chai, cinema and culture. Dr. Usha RK is presently the director of the Jawaharlal Nehru Cultural Center at the Embassy of India in Moscow. Her connection to the arts has been very long and illustrious. She has learned the art of Bharatanatyam, and her connect to the art continues with great intensity now. For 2 years, she served as the member secretary of UNESCO's Intangible Cultural Heritage for the Ministry of Culture, India. During her 3-year tenure as director, she hopes to continue the work the institution has been doing since its inception in 1989 and bringing it to greater heights. The center has resident teachers in various fields such as Kathak, Tabla, Yoga, and even languages such as Sanskrit. Dr. Usha, we have a question for you. Most people know that there exists a historical relationship between Russia and India. What do you think the reasons for the enduring relationship are? We'd like your comments, please.
Namaskar. Very warm welcome to all the viewers and the participating scholars. My very wonderful wishes to Vijayalakshmi for inviting me to this webinar. You know, the cultural ties of India and Russia have been really, really old. In fact, I just chanced upon a video yesterday, which was a 1954 video, where our health minister at that time, Srimati Chandrakala, brought a huge group of artists, including the young and dashing Ravi Shankar, along with Tara Chaudhary, who performed an Alaripu and a Tillana, along with a performer from Punjab who came and sang some folk music, and there were the Pungcholam and the Satriya dancers. So it was a huge group which was brought. 56 saw the emergence of Raj Kapoor here with the release of Avara, when Nargis, Raj Kapoor, Mukesh and the entire K. Abbas and the entire team was here. So it goes back much before that. I think individually a lot of things were happening way before that, before the freedom. But after the freedom, I think the very first ambassador to India, Pride for India, was Vijayalakshmi Pandit in 1946 or 47. Following that was Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan. Following that was Mr. Shivashankar Menon. So you had a whole lot of not only bureaucrats but officers and everybody who came here who were highly involved with art and culture, and were also extremely who they loved art and culture. Now, if we come to the Russian side of it, I was just doing a little bit of research about the kind of rituals and the kind of functions they have. So I just took up marriage as an example, and I saw that there were many of the rituals in their marriages which were similar to our marriages. And I just saw a parallel to, like, for example, we have a ceremony where they play games with each other called the Nalangu in Tamil Nadu, and also in the north they have these little games that they play with the bride and groom. They have similar games in Russia. They have they take the bride away and they expect the bridegroom to search for her. Similar thing like we do, taking him away to Kashi and asking, the parents to go and actually lure him back. So I found a lot of the father gives the bride away. So there are a few things that I found which are very intrinsic to both our cultures. And also in the language itself, there are so many words that are so akin to our language. We have a Sanskrit professor here who's going to actually speak about all that. But when I came here and I started hearing words like dua, I said dvayam. And when they said tiri, and I said treyam. So there were so many words that I found so common between the two ancient languages of India and of Russia. So there is some kind of an intrinsic, integral relationship between the two countries, which I think has really paved the way for cultural ties and for being close to each other. They understand our philosophies, they understand the way we are thinking. And at the point in time when Raj Kapoor came here, and his films, very socialistic in nature, endeared the people here, and they loved the tramp look. So there are so many things that go together. It's not just one or two things that you can pinpoint. There's a whole lot of things that comes together, and that is why I wonder sometimes how a little Russian kid. I mean, we have a student who's barely 6 years old who learns the tabla, who is so devoted to that instrument and who is so devoted to the classes. How does a Russian young girl just understand Swami Ninne Korina Nura? How does she understand that? How do they actually feel that? So there is something beyond just trying to understand why the two countries are, friendly.
Thank you so much, Ushaji. Uh, at the Center for Soft Power, we are looking at probably the softer elements of country-to-country relationships. And with Russia, fortunately, we've had both hard power too, with very good strategic, military, economic, and even in space and technology exchanges. So, in your opinion, do you think that which flowed from what did the military and the strategic partnerships come about because of the softer connections with each other? Or do you think that because we have such good understanding at a geopolitical level, that even culturally we found new ways to learn about each other?
See, there have been some examples which recently I was talking to our military attaché, and he was telling me that they have found certain graves of Javans which are really dating back, and so there have been Javans who were buried here after a certain, kind of a joint venture where they came here to work in Russia. So it's like a really long time back, and that may have started the whole thing. But I personally, as a person from the art and culture world, I would believe that no two people or no two groups or no two countries can ever combine with each other unless there is a kind of a soft approach to the relationship of each other. So you have the geopolitical, you have the hardcore industry, you have the defense forces, you have all these things going on, you have e-commerce, all that. But beyond that, I think there is something else also, because I mean, how could a Javan I mean, how could our Javans have come here and survived and fought along shoulder to shoulder with them unless there was something more to it? So a country is able to recognize that this is a space which we can deal with, and these are the people whom we can understand and we can work with. I think probably that would have been, but whatever flowed from whatever, that's not important. Today if we look at it, we've had some of the greatest cultural ties. We had the Festival of India here in 1986. And they had the Festival of Russia in India, which was such a grand success. We had the Bolshoi, we had all the most fabulous performances in India. They traveled across all the cities. So right from the early 50s, if you look at those old videos, you can actually feel the joy of the Russians welcoming our artists. I mean, it's not just about the cinema praise that became with Raj Kapoor. In fact, I read a short excerpt of an interview with the great K.A. Abbas, who said that Raj Saab, when he landed here after all that wonderful welcome, felt a little bit depressed when he was in the hotel. He said, you know, kuch ban nahi raha hai. It is not like I'm not getting the star treatment that I am, you know. And then the film released, and at 4 o'clock, when he went to the theater, there were thousands of people waiting outside, and they literally lifted him up. And that's when he realized that, no, it's not what I'm thinking. You know, the people here, they just love me. So that change of thought, the way they reacted to the Indians, I mean, they made them do a little bit of a film scene, and they tried to do it in Russian. All this just goes to show that there's something flowing from both sides. It's not just we who are trying to do it. They are also, I mean, it's much more strong on either side, and that is why it is fitting. You can't have the box and the lid if it's not matching. It will only close if both are fit for each other. So I think it doesn't matter from where what has come. But today we are finding that soft power is extremely powerful in the manner in which it develops relations, the manner in which it opens windows and doors. So that, I think, is right now at its best, usage.
So you do think that the Festival of India, which was of course first celebrated in Russia, does bring cultural ties closer and stronger, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, just a question here. Now, when our artists come across to Russia, do they perform even in theaters like the Bolshoi Theater, or are the venues only like, you know, in the center, or is the larger Russian population also privy to the Indian performers that come there?
I would say that 99% of the audience here is Russian. For any performance that you may have, small or big, it doesn't matter. They just love the arts. I think MS Subbulakshmi has performed at the Bolshoi Ballet. Ravi Shankar ji has performed at the Bolshoi Theatre. So there have been great artists of India who have performed at the Bolshoi Theatre. Apart from that, there are beautiful other auditoriums. The Tchaikovsky Center here, which is the conservatory here, has a beautiful auditorium where Amjad Ali Khan performed just a couple of years back. So the best of auditoriums are there for all our artists, and they do perform there. It's not just in the Indian Embassy or in some Indian association. It's largely the local and the governmental. We have right now we have a tie-up with the government, which is called Namaste Russia, where our artists come here, our groups come here, and their groups come to India. So at a governmental level, we have a lot of common exchange program, agreements between the two countries, and they do get it. And it's not only in Moscow. I think in every part of India, I mean Russia, wherever Indian artists go, they are received with the same love and affection that they are received in Moscow. I personally have visited a couple of smaller places, which is where we've done some master classes, and not by well-known artists, just by our faculty. Even they are received with the same, fervence and the kind of love that you get. They don't move from the auditorium, and they are there right up to the end, and that is something we just love, that you don't get those kind of audiences in many parts of the world.
Thank you, Usha ji. The center has become one of the attendees had sent us a mail and said he had visited the center, and it's become a really vibrant learning center. So how did the center itself evolve from its, I think the very first ICCR Foundation Day I read was in Moscow. So how has the center itself evolved as a cultural hub for training as well as for conducting of these cultural events? What is its role right now in the perpetuating our culture?
Yeah, I think in '89 when they started off, from then onwards, we've had a couple of faculty coming from India, staying here, especially Kathak teachers or maybe instrumentalists like Sarod and Tabla. And we even had a Hindi teacher coming to teach the language here. And that continued. And then of course yoga became a big thing, so we have a wonderful yoga teacher here also. So training also, because the students who go from here on ICCR scholarships, which I think is a huge element of our center, where the students are selected and then they go to India, they go to Kalakshetra or they go to Kathak Kendra, they go to various teachers individually. We've now found a young girl who stayed for 4 years and learned Carnatic music in Chennai. So we have a lot of students who avail the opportunity and they go there, they learn for a couple of years and come. So that's one part of it. So again, training is happening there in a very strong way. We have a lot of local teachers, many of them who graduated from big institutes in India, who also teach. So through the week, our faculty teaches, our resident teachers teach, and during the weekends, we give those halls at I mean virtually no cost to the local teachers who have their own group of students who they also teach. So it's become more of a training center, not only for us but also for the locals. They really look forward to the kind of space that we have available for them. So Saturday, Sunday, right from morning till night, 9 o'clock, from 9 to 9, the center is fully buzzing on both days of the weekend. And through the week, of course, our teachers are also teaching from morning to night. So the center is quite, abuzz with training. And of course, we have not less than 5 to 6 performances or programs or discussions or chats or workshops or something going on through the month. At least from the time I have come, and it has been happening even earlier. It's not that it has started because of me, but activity has been rife from the beginning. Yeah, what I could have contributed was more on the creative side of it. So not to just have a workshop, but to try and create some, interesting thought or concept for it. Like when we did yoga, we did yoga with live flute music. To see how the meditation is, bettered if you're having a live music going on with it. So we had this young Russian boy playing the flute. Similarly, we did food for health and yoga. So we demonstrated how to make things like kashaya and how to make, salad like we make in the south, and similar dishes, palak parathas, just to get them also interested in the kind of food that we are making and to see what is healthy for them. And when it comes to tabla and all that, we have made our tabla teacher and who also sings, we made him collaborate with the Russian violinists who play Western music. So we've tried to see what ragas can be played, what tunes they can collaborate with us. We've worked on elements of seasons. So we played Vivaldi, the four seasons, and we played our Ritu rags just to see how we can combine. So this kind of, I think, little bit of a creative edge, which I, because of being a performer, have been able to contribute. Has been, like, for example, a Hindi teacher has been here, he's still here. And so what would he speak for yoga? So I've asked him to speak about something on Sutra, Patanjali Sutra, what kind of a documentation it is. And from the literary point of view, how can you understand that it's not a text, but it is a documentation. So, I'm trying to bring out some element that can be connected with that particular subject at that point in time, for the teachers also to put in some more extra effort, so that we come out with more interesting things. And I think people are sort of loving it. We did something on the Navarasas over here. We did something on the music, the seasons and the music. So we keep doing newer concepts, which of course has been my strength back home also. And that is being appreciated, widely. So the center is now abuzz with a lot of more creative things. We did the Margari in Moscow, which was celebrating the Chennai season in Moscow for a whole day, starting morning 11 o'clock up to night 9 o'clock. So we did the whole day, and then we had Bal Kalakar, all young kids below the age of 10. We had them perform, and for them we also did ballet, and we also did the Russian folk, so that to see that the kids are, they just sort of they don't do only Odissi and Bharatanatyam, but they also do this. So we got local troops to come together, so the kids had a great time. We are trying to see how much we can bring together, unite more, and creatively enhance the center, so that by and by we see that they also understand the finer nuances of our subjects. uh, I think that makes them also feel very interested, because they love to know more. So
That's wonderful. Margari in Moscow is a really nice concept that you have done. So I
yeah.
just have a question now. Uh, are all the Indian cultural activities confined to within the center, or do you take it out? I mean, say in some of the schools, or anywhere else in any other forums where there's a learning or there is a greater understanding of what our heritage and culture is.
We do in our center. We have a very small auditorium which we use at the embassy. Apart from that, I started something called the Baithak, where I invite people to come to the center so that they can see the classes and they actually experience that little hall and sit very close to the people. Apart from that, we have a lot of universities with whom we are working. We take our teachers out. We go to schools. We've been to various schools where kids, I mean, Russian kids and American kids, and different diaspora are there. We take them there. They do master classes. We take them out of Moscow also. So we just recently did one at Samara. Then we did one at Chelyabinsk. We keep, and they've been doing other places. They've been to Kazan. They've been to Altai. They've been to many regions across, where they go with the local organizations or the local music societies or something, not Indian. I mean, I'm talking about the local Russian academies that are there, or the conservatories that are there. They connect with us and they call us. We send our teachers along with a couple of students also. So the evening they have a performance, and during the day they do master classes and they teach them the finer elements, and we take a small video of the students who learn there. So we've had master classes for all ballet students. We've done master classes for folk students. We keep folk music. We've tried to get some of their tunes and then compose them in Hindi, to see how we can make us understand the flavor of their music also. So we are working with many universities and Indology centers, museums. We keep going often to speak and to do lectures. I have done a couple of lectures on the essences of rasa theory, and trying to make them understand what we mean when we say rasa. What do we mean when we say the experience of art? What do we mean when we say, what is it that you have to actually look out for when you see an Indian performance? So we are working a lot in that area also, especially in colleges and schools. We do a lot of work.
Thank you. Uh, Due to COVID, probably a lot of, or almost all travel is suspended, but otherwise, during ordinary times, what are the things of interest for tourism to India? What are the things that people want to visit India for from Russia?
Actually, there's a whole lot of people who come to India who are painters, who love to come there and paint. So we've had a huge number of exhibitions here from Russian painters who visited Kerala, who visited Karnataka, who have visited Jaipur, Jodhpur, who have, various places they visit and they come back, Brindavan, Mathura, and then they come and we do their exhibitions here. We've had girls who've gone to Delhi and who've painted artists and come back. So, but other than that, I think there's a lot of interest for heritage and to actually understand what India is about. Not, I mean, they don't go there to see like where you not like wanting to go to Bombay to see where to shop or something like that, but I think they're more interested in going to centers where, or places where there is a lot of historic or any other kind of heritage kind of place to see and to understand. uh, People have, I mean, there's a book now which has just been released in Russian, from a center of spiritual learning in Samara, where Professor Yuri, he has done a book on the Jain temples of Shatrunjaya. So I mean, look at the I mean, the subject itself can tell you what kind of interest they have, so I think they most of the people whom I have met are very keen to more understand more. Even now they are very classical in their approach of music and even painting. uh, I don't know how much of contemporary do they encourage, but yes, the ancient styles, the classic styles, that is something which they are very keen about. So I think those are the places, especially where we have so much happening in our country. In any part of, whether it's the south or the north or the east or the west, I mean, I think those kind of locations should be, fine tuned for to suit for tourism, I think.
So now the interesting part about the chai.
Yeah.
So, so I mean, I did read somewhere that several million tons of Indian tea is bought in China, in Russia. So,
Yeah.
is there a chai culture like in India, or is it? I mean, is it different? Do they enjoy our masala chai, or is it the chai without the milk? So, are there any Indian tea stalls that are there in Russia, and how well is Indian cuisine received? Are there restaurants that are Indian there?
Yes, tea is very big here. They also call it chai, and it's the same word they use for it. And green tea works very, very well. They normally drink tea without milk, but it's very strange that at all our events, the masala chai is very looked forward to. So masala chai and samosa are the two, like, the most loved food things here. They just love the samosa and they love the masala chai with milk and all the spices in it. Um, we have Indian restaurants, some very authentic restaurants are there, some with very Punjabi restaurants are there, but all food works. All Indian food works. They love our food. They don't mind the spices actually. I don't know how much understanding I have in the last 7 months that I've been here, but I have seen that they love Indian food and they like the spices. They like the way we cook also, and vegetarian food works here. ISKCON has one of the most beautiful restaurants called Satvik, which is like packed to the brim. We have restaurants. I don't want to do publicity for all the restaurants, but there are many restaurants which they all do very well here. And there are typically South Indian restaurants. There is also the North Indian restaurants, and food works in terms of even packaging and taking home. So packed food works. At all our events, they like whatever. So, I remember for Sardar Patel's birthday, we had a typically Gujarati menu with dhokla and patra and that kind of stuff, and they just loved it. They said, "Wow." So we keep trying to give them different food. For B.R. Ambedkar's Constitution Day, we had all Marathi usal pav and all that. So we try to keep the food also interesting enough for them. But samosa and chai is like the most favorite here. It works very well. We have a tea board representative in our mission itself. So tea works, tea really works. And we have lovely gift packs which we sell and give away also here. There is a proper representation of the tea board in Moscow because of that.
Thank you. You mentioned ISKCON, and Leo Tolstoy had written a very famous letter to Mahatma Gandhi titled "A Letter to a Hindu." So, what is the role of ISKCON and the spiritual influence in Moscow from different aspects of Sanatana Dharma?
Still, they have not yet given them the permission to, I think, build the temple, or I mean, it's not so clear yet. But they have a beautiful space where they have wonderful pujas and all that going on. So I don't know the technical, background of what is happening as far as their own temple is concerned, which I think they are working on right now here, the Prabhus of the ISKCON representations. But there are, I mean, a huge number of followers. There are followers across Russia. They are represented, ISKCON is represented in many, many centers, over 100 centers in Russia. And in fact, wherever we have gone, we have found them, and we have taken their help for vegetarian food. They are very, very helpful to us, and also they have a lot of cultural activities going on parallelly to, I mean, center is not the only thing here. There are other people also who run a lot of cultural work. So ISKCON has got a dance class, it has a yoga class, it has some bhajan class, and they also have performances. They have a wonderful auditorium. In fact, we have tied up with ISKCON. They have partnered us, and they give us the auditorium, we do the program, or whenever they need any program. Like for Janmashtami, we send dancers to go and do something on Krishna Radha theme, and all that. And they're a institution that has spread a lot over here. And they have huge following of Russian devotees who come. So it's not like we go to meet the Indian devotees there. There are few of them, but mostly I have seen a huge following of Russian devotees for ISKCON. In fact, even our Sri Ravi Shankar ji's ashram also, they also have a huge following, and they also have a lot of activity. Our Buddhist center here, the Drepong Center, they have a huge following of Buddhism. So various institutions have, Sadhguru has a lot of following here. So there are many institutions which have good following here. Basically, I think they have, the Russians understand the value of Ayurveda is very, very big here. So they understand the importance of these, values that are associated with these institutions, and what they mean. So there is a following that comes with that. And if we remove the religious aspect of it, if we just look at it as a spiritual movement, I think that works very well, because see, all religions, if you per se come back to it, it's religion is primarily like a discipline. So you move on in a disciplined way to reach a particular goal, where once you look at it from a spiritual point of view, then the religious aspects of it or the ritualistic aspects actually move out, so you try to elevate the system. But if you look at it from spiritual point of view, yes, they are finding benefit in the way in which all these institutions are dealing with spiritualism. So I think that's the reason why they have a following. They believe in that. The Gurudwara here has a huge following. Every institution that has come up here has a following of its own. And like I have seen, when we did when we did Guru Nanak Ji's 550th anniversary here, there were a lot of Russian girls and boys who are typically into the reading, the teachings of Guru Nanak. They all wear the turban. They are typically like that. They go to Gurudwara regularly, and then they all come here. In fact, they all wear kirpan and all that. So I was quite pretty, sort of taken aback when I saw the way they dressed, and everybody was so perfect. They all tied the thing. They all came and they, did the ardas, and they then sat and had the prasad, and everything was, I mean, so beautifully it went off. So they believe in that. They have a kind of a liking for spiritual journey, and so they're trying. They each one picks up something that works for them. So there are those who do yoga for that, for spirituality. There are those who go to ISKCON. There are those who go to Gurdwara. There are those who go to Sri Shri's ashram. There's those who go to the Buddhist center. But all said and done, they're all working, moving towards the same path. So I think it makes good sense for them also.
Thank you very much. As a last question, I'd like to ask you, I've read that the Ramayana and the Mahabharata have been translated into Russian. How popular is it there?
Well, it has been translated. Many of our texts are translated here, especially the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, and it's quite popular. It's available in all libraries. A lot of people read it. A lot of people quote. A lot of people understand the Gita and its sayings. And many times in my own talks, chats with the Indologists here, I have found that they are very interested in these texts and the way the philosophy works in that. So I don't know about how it is sold or not. I don't know about that. But yes, it is available in all the major libraries of Moscow. I have been to a couple of them, and they have very well translated and good copies available. We also have it at our own library at the embassy, and a lot of people come to refer and to understand it. Uh, I think these are the two texts which are evergreen, and I don't think everybody, understands that Gita is an important thought to understand and to bring into one's life, because the English translations of it are so common and so easily. Many of the lines that we have in our texts. I remember when we were young kids, and my grandmother said, stand away. If somebody is standing there, you don't have to go so close. So stand with arm's distance, she said then, way back in 60s. And now I think, look at it. Now everybody is saying stand at arm's distance. So a lot of things that we intrinsically knew as children, today I'm seeing that is becoming the way of life. So people understand that what is the philosophy of the Gita, and what was being tried to say. So today they say that it doesn't matter who is there. You see whether you're on the right path or not. So you go, there is no brother and no sister in all this. You have to go and do your duty. You've come here for a purpose. What are all these lines? I mean, you've come here for a purpose. So if I only say it with an American accent, will it be accepted? That is what we have been saying for all our life. So I think it's just now become universal. All this has become universal. So every little thing that we see today, like we all had a hearty laugh when everyone started doing Namaste. So we are now understanding the value, and I think for the coming generations to actually understand the value of this, not only for Indian generations, I'm saying across the world, every generation that is coming next should understand the value of whatever is good across the world, without demeaning anything and without trying to feel that, oh, it's not ours or it's not theirs. So we are happy to spread it, and we are happy to give more. So I think people understand these values now.
Thank you so much, Dr. Usha. We'll take your questions at the end after his session. You can both answer them.
Sure.
So we'll now move on to Zahorulko Andriy. I hope I have your name pronounced right.
Yes, that's right.
Welcome you to this session, and just a small little background of Zahorulko I'd like to give. He's been here for the past 15 years in India studying Sanskrit. He comes from a family where both his parents are linguists, and they are both PhDs. And he grew up in a home where, there was a lot of Indian philosophy and talk of the Indian deities, etc. in India. And both of them have translated many texts about Hindu philosophy and Hindu deities into many different languages. And our young person here is a researcher and a scholar of Sanskrit. He studies in the Rashtriya Sanskrit Sansthan under Ashok Kumar Mishra, and his current guide is Madhukeshwar Bhatt. So as a first question, I'd like to ask you, what brought your parents to India, And what is it about Sanskrit that has inspired you to dedicate so many years of your life to her study?
Sarvebhyo Namo Namaha. I greet all of you, all the audience, and all respected people here. So first of all, I want to say one thing, not 15 years, but 12 years now. I've been living here constantly 12 years. So see, my parents got interested in Indian philosophy and culture long time ago, many years before my birth. So they read some works, they read about yoga, about philosophy, they read works about famous Indian scholar and spiritual leader Swami Vivekananda. And they decided to come to India in 1992 as a tourist. And after that, they visited India several times with me. And in 1998, 1999, and in 2005, 2006, my father worked in steel plants, in Visakhapatnam steel plant and Durgapur steel plant. He worked as a translator because there are some Russian specialists, they do not speak English properly, so they required some people who would translate what they say. And now we have been living in Delhi constantly since 2009. And my father worked at that time. He had been working for 5 years in BrahMos. Have you heard about BrahMos? BrahMos, Russian-Indian joint venture, cruise missiles. And my mother, she was a guest lecturer in Delhi University, DU. She taught Indian students Russian language. Now my parents, they're both retired and they do their sadhana in Tiruvannamalai. It's Tamil Nadu, southern part of India. And they translated a lot of books about Hindu culture and philosophy from English into Russian. They wrote several their books, for example, Hindu gods and goddesses, Hindu temples, etc. Wrote some books about Vedic culture, translated and wrote some books about Vedic culture and gods and goddesses, etc. So my childhood was in India. My parents were interested in languages, both in languages and Indian culture. So in this kind of environment, how could I not get interest to the Sanskrit?
Thank you, Andriy. Ma'am had mentioned similarities in words between Sanskrit and Russian. She mentioned chai. But in our conversation, you said that's a very, looking at a language by this, since both the languages belong to the Indo-European school, there are bound to be similar words. And that would be a simplistic way of looking at language by just seeing, root structure. So what do you think is, the best way of comparing Russian and Sanskrit, since you're doing that for your PhD?
Yes, so first of all, I would like to repeat that the vocabulary of most of languages is quite big. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of words. So even the languages from absolutely different families of language, they could have 50, 60, 70, about 100 or several hundred words, similar words. Even they sound the same way, they have the same meaning, but it does not mean something special. And we are talking about languages from one Indo-European family. So of course, there may be some similarities. And what I want to mention, sometimes in these popular articles, they do not even compare the roots, they just compare the words itself. Not even the roots, but the words, what we get at the end. But for me, it's quite more important to compare the morphological systems of languages and to compare their grammatical structure. For example, how many cases we have in this language, how many cases we have in this language, and what are the usages of these cases, where we use this case in this language and where we use this case, the same case in the other language, and etc. How many tenses we have, how we use these tenses, and all these things. It's quite important to compare these all these things. So did I mention the subject of my PhD?
Yeah, you did mention. Please, could you just share it with the audience?
Yes, so the subject is nothing, in this subject, nothing is difficult to understand, but actually the material is very vast and difficult. So first of all, I want to say the title in Sanskrit, because actually we write in our Sanskrit, we write only in Sanskrit. We do not have PhDs in Hindi, English, or other languages. Sanskritasya rus bhashayascha vibhaktinam taulanikam adhyayanam samanya vishlešanancha. It means the comparative study and general analysis of the case systems of both of the Russian language and the Sanskrit language. So I just started my research, I think at the end of last year, but then suddenly this COVID lockdown happened. Now I do not have the opportunity to go on regular basis to my acharyas. We have some classes online, but still I can't go to our library, so the work is going quite slow. But now I'm working on my first chapter about the history of grammatical studies in Russia and in Sanskrit both. And I hope that in 2-3 years I shall be able to tell you in details about similarities and as well about diversities of Sanskrit and Russian. Anyway, what I want to tell, grammar is the key to everything. Grammar is the most important part when we compare languages. Like you see, there's a ancient Sanskrit, not verse, but some saying. I do not remember it exact, but the meaning will be so, if you can't learn, if you are not very clever to learn a lot of things, at least learn grammar, because if you know grammar, you won't miss Svajanaha and Shvajanaha. Shvajanaha is a dog and Svajanaha is your relative. So at least you need to know the grammar if you expect to get something from, to achieve something in your life. So grammar is the most important, and I hope, see, this is the new subject, new material, so I hope after 2-3 years, I shall be able to tell something more about, something in details about this situation. But certainly we can tell that these languages are quite similar. Maybe Russian is not the most similar language, but one of the most similar languages. As far as I know, Lithuanian, it was also a part country, which was the part of the USSR. Their ancient language is very, very similar to Sanskrit. When we're talking about roots, verb roots and the other roots, and when we're talking about grammar, the same. I think, as far as I know, it's the most similar language to ancient Sanskrit. But we can certainly say that Russian is more similar to Sanskrit than, for example, English language or German language or any kind of European languages. So that's so.
So, is there an interest for Indian text to be translated into Russian, and what are the texts that in Sanskrit that have interested you the most?
Yeah, I think there's a big interest, but mostly people are interested in some kind of spiritual texts, like Vedas, Vedic culture, philosophy, yoga, etc., etc. And many of these books were translated, probably not directed from Sanskrit into Russian. Some of them were translated from Sanskrit into Russian, but most of these translations were done from English, German, French, etc. So first of all, these books were translated many, many hundreds of years ago from Sanskrit into English, most common language, and then people started translating them from English into Russian, and that's how the people got the information about Sanskrit culture. For example, I know that Abhigyana Shakuntalam, famous work of Kalidasa, it was translated in more than 100 years ago. So people got this information, people knew about Sanskrit culture, Sanskrit natakas, dramas, etc. What I'm talking personally, I'm mostly interested in grammar. My subject is grammar, Vyakaranam. So I'm interested in works like Vyakarana Siddhanta Kaumudi Mahabhashyam, famous work of Maharshi Patanjali, Vyakarana Bhushana Sara, and all other works. This is a kind of specific literature which is not that much popular among foreigners. But still, most of these books were translated into foreign languages, at least big important parts of them. But none of these works, as far as I know, again, were fully translated into Russian from Sanskrit, because as I already told you, it's kind of specific literature. Not so many people want to learn grammar in all these details. For example, I know that there were some translations of several Ahnikas. Ahnikas means part. Ahnika means part of Mahabhashyam. And Lakhu Siddhanta Kaumudi also was translated directly from Sanskrit into Russian. But these works, they're not popular among common people. See, if you ask people about yoga, Vedas, Ayurveda, about even Mahabharata and Ramayana, many Russian people, at least they heard in their life these titles, these names. But if you talk about Vyakarana Siddhanta Kaumudi and Mahabhashyam or even Ashtadhyayi, even the name of Panini, not so many people know about it, and not so many people are interested in this. For example, I'm doing my PhD from Central Sanskrit University, Rashtriya Sanskrit Sansthan. I was the only student before here, the only foreign student. Nowadays we have the other student, I think not from Russia, from Germany, but still, when I applied for my PhD, we had exams, and the people passed the exams. They had to join some course. We had 157 people, I think. And out of these 157 people, I was the only foreigner.
Andrew, I think in our earlier discussion, you had mentioned that there's a lot of demand for Sanskrit in Russia.
That's right.
But there's a problem because Indian Sanskrit scholars going there to teach don't know Russian. So, there's a slight gap there in the transfer of the language. So you said,
Right.
how do we meet this demand when the Indian scholars don't know Russian, but there's a demand for Sanskrit? So how does, how do departments manage when this is the case?
I see two sides of the solving of this question. First of all, see many great Sanskrit Pandits in all these times. They did not know not only Russian. Most of them do not know even English that well. They're great scholars in Sanskrit, and but the professors who also learn Sanskrit and who know English, they're not that great in classical Sanskrit grammar. I'm not talking about typical works on Sanskrit from European scholars. They're different. They look on Sanskrit from it's kind of their point of view. It's not classical Sanskrit tradition. And there are few scholars who know Sanskrit great, like Mr. George Cardona. Maybe you heard this name. He's living in Pennsylvania in the USA. And I can certainly say that he knows the Sanskrit on the best level, on the level which we can compare to the level of great Sanskrit Pandits. But first of all, and I already see the changing of the situation, like many of my classmates, they learn English. They know English quite well. So I bet in future they could also teach Sanskrit in English. And the second thing, how it could be solved, people, for example, from Russian Cultural Center in Moscow or from some Russian universities, they could be sent here to India, to Rashtriya Sanskrit Sansthan, like to stay here for some time, 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks, 2 months, to learn Sanskrit. We have here we have some very basic courses for the beginners, how to talk Sanskrit. I'm not talking now about Panini's grammar, sutras, etc. Only to say, what is your name? What are you doing? What's your age? And after that, if you get this level is a beginner's level. You do not even need to know English to study that. You have pictures, books with pictures, and step by step you go on and on and on. And after that, you would be able yourself to read some comments to Sanskrit works and to get the knowledge, to grasp the knowledge of Sanskrit. But this has to be two-sided. So some efforts have to be made here in India to teach Sanskrit Pandits foreign languages, English, German, maybe Russian, why not? There are a lot of similarities. And to let the Russian people to come here and to have some crash courses, some short courses of short duration. And that could strengthen our bonds and could allow people to learn more about Sanskrit. But Sanskrit is also, it's not easy to learn the language properly. Some people, they're interested in Indian culture and philosophy, etc. But if you learn something, you need to be very patient and you need to be a lot of hard working. So not all the people will do it anyway, because it requires a lot of time, strength, etc. But I already see the situation changes. Some of my friends, they know English very well. They know Sanskrit very well. Probably in future they would go somewhere. Why not to go to Russia and to teach Sanskrit to Russians? Let's see. I would like to make one day to make the translation of some important works from Sanskrit to Russian, and I would like to translate the works of Mr. George Cardona. I already mentioned him. He has great works about Panini's grammar. It's not just textbook of Sanskrit, which we have a lot of textbooks of Sanskrit, even in Russian, but they do not teach the classical traditional Sanskrit and the spoken Sanskrit as well. Because see, even nowadays, many people who can translate texts, who can read and translate Vedic texts and the other texts, they can do it much better than me. But for them it's difficult to speak Sanskrit, and some people believe that Sanskrit is a dead language, but it's not that. If I meet my classmates, I always can conversate with them in Sanskrit, and it doesn't mean that we talk about Vedas or spiritual. We talk about our everyday life, and we do it in Sanskrit. So it means Sanskrit is a living language. That's the thing. And I hope it will prosper. Like it is said, yeah, surely.
I just wanted to, I mean, some observations that I've had in the past few months when I've been seeing the Sanskrit classes here, is that some of the, like for example, in yoga, when she teaches yoga, she, says the Sanskrit words for certain asanas or certain mantras, she says while they are doing it. But the repetition of that, see, because every language has its intrinsic pronunciation. Now, in Sanskrit or in these kind of, languages, the vibration of that particular utterance is what is the value in it. Now, I find, so I've been trying, even in Hindi class, what I've done is I said, while you teach them, you have a WhatsApp voice group where you keep making them repeat the words in the manner in which it is supposed to be said. So, sir cannot become sir and sir cannot become sure.
Right.
To get them to get the pronunciation also right, because especially in Sanskrit, it is the vibration of the word that is the value of it. So especially in yoga when we are teaching, so I said you cannot just say the mantra in which it is not meant to be said. The vibration has to be right. So we should work more in that space also. So whoever comes to teach should be able to pronounce the words in the manner in which it is supposed to be pronounced.
That's absolutely
For
right.
language, it is true that if you speak Tamil, you pronounce it the way it is meant to be. Similarly for Hindi, and similarly for other languages. If I learn Russian, I should be able to pronounce it in the way it is
Right.
meant to be pronounced. So I think we have a little bit on these things also.
Yes, well, absolutely right. See, in everyday's life, maybe it's not so important. People may hear you and understand. But when we're talking about mantras, it is believed that when mantra is pronounced not properly, it won't have any kind of effect. You may know the meaning, you may pronounce it, that the other people would understand what you want to say. But without the proper utterance, we do all these things. It is believed not to have effect. So surely we have to work about it, and that's why we need audio courses, and we need truly Sanskrit pandits who come from India, or the Russian people to come to India and to listen how they pronounce, because you just can't. It's possible to explain how to pronounce, but anyway, you have to practice, and even. For example, for me, sometimes it's difficult to pronounce all the na because in the Russian language, we do not find this difference. For shasha saha, it's not that difficult because in Russia we have that difference. For some English-speaking people, it's usually too difficult to explain this difference between shasha and sa. And I remember one Chinese doctor came to Sanskhan, and in Chinese language, as far as I know, there is no ra, refaha. So for them, it's extremely difficult to read and to pronounce these words in Sanskrit.
Ra for Ra.
Yes.
So we had this Russian dance student. So for Re Repa Ma, she would sing Le Lepa Ma.
Yes.
They don't have Ra. So.
And see, if people, they do not have these letters in their native language, we just can't explain them how to pronounce. They just have to listen and try to pronounce. And that's one of the most difficult parts of this thing. But I know, I think I remember I met one man from Poland. I do not remember exactly his name. He completed his study in the university in Varanasi, Yoga Tantra specialization. And he speaks great Sanskrit. His pronunciation is so good. It's better than mine, as I believe. Usually people say that my pronunciation is quite good. I can't say that it's absolutely right, but I've been learning Sanskrit here from Sanskrit. See, that's also the difference. When people learn Sanskrit from English textbooks, and when people learn Sanskrit through Sanskrit medium, because we learn Sanskrit through Sanskrit. That's the most important thing.
Thank you very much, Andrei. Would you like to end with, say, have you composed any verse or anything that you'd like to just share with us?
Actually, I'm a grammarian. I'm not a
You're a
Sahitya. I do
grammarian.
not compose verses, but I may answer your questions. I may try to answer your questions or the questions of the audience if you
Okay.
ask them.
Okay. So there is a question from Soumya Iyer, and that is for Dr. Usha. She says, Namaste, this is a really interesting topic. I'm wondering, with the rise of racism in the US and protests around the world, do Indians experience any racism in Russia? If so, how is it experienced? If not, why not? If so, how do the cultural activities impact perspectives of ethnic Russians on Indians? This is from Soumya Iyer.
Thank you, Soumya, for your question. Whatever 7 months I've been here, I think this is my 8th month. I have not encountered any such experience or even seen anything like that within our own center and the students and teachers or whatever. But also whatever we've heard in the past about teachers who've come or people who've worked here. Aparna's family father was working here. I've heard so many officers who worked here in the past who are now retired, and they have been in touch with me, saying you're going to Russia and it's such a fabulous place and it's a very friendly country and you won't have any problems. Not that we expected any problem, because I have interacted with the Russians when they came to India in '86. And at that time, I was a young girl and I was working backstage for the Bolshoi Ballet. So I really interacted with them and I saw they were very nice and very, we didn't have any such sort of issues with them at all. So I don't think there's primarily for Indians, there is nothing like that. It's a very calm place to be in. We are happy, we can walk anywhere. Our children are very happy to play downstairs with all the children. We don't have any such issues as far as racism is concerned here. In Russia, at least, we don't have. And as because they also love everything about us. So, like you go in the underpass, even some old man who's standing there or anybody standing there, they see us, they immediately say, they look at us and they feel we are Indian. So then they'll say, oh, Raj Kapoor, Avara Hu. And then they just break into a little bit of a song. So when we did Raj Kapoor's 95th birthday, we had a 3,000 auditorium, which was packed to the brim, not a single seat. And I must say 99.99% were Russians. And we showed Avara in Russian translation, I mean Russian dubbing. It was house full. And then we showed two films, Mera Naam Joker and Avara. Both films were houseful. In fact, Mera Naam Joker is the heroine, the Senia, the lady who acted in that. She now came that day for the function. She came to the stage and she was so happy. And so there is, we don't find any such kind of a treatment or a feeling at all over here.
So what was the age group of the audience for that? Was it all the older people, or even the younger Russians were there for this movie screening?
I would say maybe 60-40, 60% were older people who had either come to India or they had visited India, or they had met Raj Kapoor, or they saw Raj Kapoor's films, and they knew about all his films. And a lot of military people who have visited India and who have met him, they were there. There were more than 15 retired military, I mean, Army, Navy, Air Force people who came in full uniform with all their medals and badges. They came like formal way, for this Raj Kapoor thing. They really feel that it is a very big pride for them to know about him and to be there. About 40% were youngsters who actually want to understand that India, for them, I think there's another generation which loves Mithun Chakravarti. I mean, Mithun is like a god for the women in Russia. Even today, they sing the song called Jimmy, 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 which was not such a big hit in India, but here it is like a crazy song. Even today, they sing it. You have, if you go to YouTube and see, you'll have these little kids who sing Main Shayar To Nahi, they sing Mithun songs with the dialogues and everything. I mean, it's like the whole act they do. So there are a lot of other younger generation. Today's younger generation just loves Bollywood. They love the songs. They love Salman. They love Shah Rukh. They perform to all these Katrina and Karina and all these songs. For at any function without Bollywood, it doesn't work. They just, and for them it's so naturally, they do it so beautifully. We also have Bollywood classes in our center on Sundays, where a lot of children come to learn. They just love those, love the dance and the music and the whole film, and they love the Karan Johar films of the world. So the younger generation is very enthusiastic about the kind of films that are coming now.
Thank you, Ushaji. Are there any similarities between Russian folk stories and Indian folk tales that you know?
I know of certain stories, but then they're all very parallel. If you look at the fairy tales, or you look at the stories over here, they all have that kind of a romanticism in it. So there is the king and the queen, and then there is the guy, boy and the girl, and then there all that, and then there's a villain, and then there's a dark role person playing a dark role. So all these things are part of it. But I must say that whatever I have seen live, I mean, you see the videos, they are breathtaking. But if you see the live program, I mean, your mouth will be just open. It is so fantastic the way they perform, and the zest and the energy and the way they create that whole thing. I mean, it's mind blowing the way they create the stories, and the way, of course, the Bolshoi ballet and even any other ballet group is like breathtaking. So beautifully they do their performances. They're very disciplined. There's so much one can learn from them. And the stories are all in their own names, but they are connected. So if you look at the Swan Lake, or you look at any story, it is very similar to our love stories that we have across the world. It's I mean, fairy tales are there across. In fact, I recently had the opportunity of doing a short welcome during the birthday of the great legendary poet and writer, author Pushkin, where one of the important things I felt was that he wrote fairy tales in verse. So, I mean, it's very parallel to our Sanskrit writing of text. I mean, drama, because they're all in verse, and they have a meter to it. He also has written something in verse, so I thought that was very interesting. And the thought of submitting, the thought of surrendering, which I read in one of his poems called Lost Love, where even in the last line he says that even if you don't love me, it's fine, but I pray that God gives you that love from somebody else. So that kind of that submission to it, and the spiritual thought of wanting to surrender to that whole concept of love, I think was very beautiful. So that 17th 18th century, I think 16th 17th 18th century golden period across the globe. I mean, look at all the greats that came during that time. Whether it is in India, you look at you look at Trinity, you look at all the great poets up north. You look at what happened here. You look at the music composers here. You look at Mozart. You look at Beethoven. You look at everything. You'll see that was a real golden period for creativity. So you had the masters and the great people at that time. There are some questions.
I don't think there are any more questions. Varsha, anybody in the audience with raised hands?
No, nobody.
Excuse me.
Yes.
There was one question, as far as I see, about where to learn Sanskrit for foreigners.
Yes.
I think someone has asked. Actually, if you talk about Russia, that's Jawaharlal Nehru courses from Jawaharlal Nehru Cultural Center. Mr. Sergei Labanov, I know him, he teaches there. He has some courses for the beginners and for the one who already learned Sanskrit. And if we're talking about India, there are no special courses for foreigners, but you can try to apply for online courses from Mukta Swadhyay Peetham. It is called distance education from Rashtriya Sanskrit Sansthan. Rashtriya Sanskrit Sansthan is the biggest university, Sanskrit university. They have a lot of campuses, I think around 13 or 14 campuses around India. So it's the best place where to learn Sanskrit, whether you're a foreigner or an Indian person. I personally stay in Delhi, and if someone wants to learn Sanskrit from here, he can come and write to me and ask for some help from my side.
Thank you very much. And I would like to really thank both of you for so spontaneously accepting and sharing your thoughts at such short notice. I thank the audience, and we'd love for all of you to come to our webinar tomorrow. We have another webinar tomorrow, Indian Art and Literature in the UK. We have Sri Amish Tripathi, who is the director for the Nehru Center at London, and we have Sri Sandeep Pardi, who is the artistic director of the Darbar Festival UK, and this will be at 8 o'clock IST. So thank you all, and namaskar.
Namaste. Dhanyavadaha.
Dhanyawad.
Thank you so much.